Hi, I'm Erin Reilly, and we're broadcasting live here at Infinity Festival. I'm a professor at the University of Texas at Austin and a strategic consultant for the Infinity Festival. And we're bringing Silicon Valley innovators together with Hollywood storytelling professionals. And I have with me Sean Stewart here, a guest to talk about Immersive and hopefully inspire the next generation of storytellers. Welcome, Sean.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Sean, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you're currently doing.
So I started off as a science fiction novelist, as you know, and then I ended up somehow being the guy you call when you have a strange online scavenger hunt nonlinear narrative.
And ARGs.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for the shout out. This thing called alternate reality games that I was one of the sort of co-creating group of. And now I work with Magic Leap, which is a company that makes mixed reality goggles so that you can see the world around you and you can still see it. It's not like virtual reality, but you can overwrite it with all kinds of virtual content, whether that's informative or, because I'm me, entertainment-oriented stuff.
So background as an author, a science fiction writer, moving all the way into some of the hottest emerging technology that's happening. How did you, this is a zig and a zag.
Yes, well.
How does it connect?
So the initial online project was what's now considered the first alternate reality game, was for Steven Spielberg's film AI. And they came up with this idea of what if we reenacted the Paul is Dead Beatles mystery, but we sort of built out the world of AI online, and people could have this experience online all over the place. And the guys at Microsoft came up with this pitch, and they took it to Spielberg and his producer, Kathy Kennedy, and they said, that's great, but we don't want just some Microsoft dude writing that. So we're going to go talk to a real, honest-to-goodness, powerful, cutting-edge science fiction writer, which was not me. They went to a guy named Neil Stevenson, and Neil said, in his usual immaculately polite and very gentle way, actually, the book writing thing is working out okay for me, but I have a broke friend. So I stepped into that breach, and that put me on this path through interactive, collaborative material and interactive television, and now I'm at Magic Leap.
So I'm curious, I hear the words immersive, interactive, experiential. Are they one and the same? Or do they have differences? How would you define or the combination of all of those?
Well, your new experience is whatever word is getting funded. But loosely speaking, immersive, I guess, is one of the broadest categories. So around here at a festival like this, you'll see people showing 360 video in virtual reality. And that's immersive in the sense that it's all around you. I am more interested in a sub part of that, which is you might think of as collaborative. That is, when the audience has some kind of ability to move or speak or drive the action or turn their attention, and the art you're building responds to that. I was trying to explain what I do to my mom, a challenge over the last 20 years.
Oh, this will be good for students. I'm sure they're trying to explain it to their moms as well.
So one of the sort of quick cheats I evolved was, when I started as a novelist, art in my head and what I was doing was a lot like cooking. You make a meal, you put it in front of people, and then they can either eat it or not. And the art that I'm most interested in making now is more like dancing, which is you rent a hall, you get a band, you get your fancy clothes on, and you come to the audience and you offer your hand, and then you begin to dance. And the old ballroom thing was the gentleman proposes the step, and the lady decides whether to accept it. And I think a lot of the art that I'm interested in has that kind of collaborative dancing thing. There is a lead, which you have, But if it does not work for your partner, then you need to adjust and respond to what that partner is interested in.
Right. And so are there certain guardrails or constraints that you have in your toolkit that you'd recommend as like creating this kind of dance between storyteller and audience?
That's a really good question. The first guardrail I would have is actually for creators, which is respect the audience. And
Thank you.
I'll tell you what I mean. When you put a new thing out in the world, everybody sort of understands you don't write reviews of it yourself, and if you get caught, that's bad.
It's like liking your own social media post.
Right.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, because among other things, the internet is full of very smart people who will catch you.
Right.
Similarly, in a lot of the experiences I've made, right, I create this mysterious experience and website and books and all that sort of thing. People dive in, and then the community will form, and they'll be, maybe they'll be talking about it on social media, or there'll be a Reddit thread, or there'll be a Discord. Don't go in there and pretend to be one of them. Mm-hmm. Don't go in there and like things or dislike things or drop clues. That's their space. Respect their space. Respect the rules of the game. Mm-hmm. It helps to, one of the things that, because I started in alternate reality games, one of the things that's often said about that genre is people didn't even know if it was real. Not the case. Everyone always knew that it was not real.
Right.
No one went to a website that said, I'm a professor of sentient machine therapy at Bangalore World University and the year is 2142. No one clicked on that site and said, oh my God, I'm looking at a website from 2142.
All of a sudden I've jumped in time. It's amazing.
It's amazing. What they understood was, as I look at this website and when I talk to other people about it and this story, we are all in 2142.
Right.
We inhabit
that world.
The lady accepts the step and begins the dance, but it's not like she doesn't understand that you're dancing, right?
Right.
So the urge to hoax people, the urge to make them feel like, oh, what is even real, is something that people often bring to the space that's not really very helpful. Mm-hmm. Among other things, it's a power over move.
Right.
It's a God game move, and I prefer a more respectful stance to the audience. Does that make any sense?
No, it definitely does, and it's great fodder to share with my students when thinking about our relationship with the audience. I'd love to jump in because I know that you started with writing books, right?
Yeah.
And I often talk with students about reimagining what a book is, right? And thinking about the affordances of each media. And I'm curious, since you've really participated and developed stories across so many different mediums, how do you come to a new medium? Where do you begin?
That's such an interesting question. Respect is helpful.
Yeah.
Learning is helpful. Each thing you work in, there's like humility is a good start. Mm-hmm. I had advantages that I did not recognize when I started out. I was a hipster role player. Like, I was that kid who didn't play D&D because everybody plays D&D. So I had to play.
I'm sorry, we can't be friends.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm the kid who is playing Empires of the Petal Throne, but with the RuneQuest damage tables.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
you're totally an edge dweller then.
Yeah. The idea of a hipster role player is like pretension taken to an entirely new level.
You need a T-shirt for that one.
Yeah. Actually, I try to suppress that part of my past. But between that and then in college, I put myself through college partially running LARPs and writing murder mystery dinner theater. And those all share this thing that you're working with an audience that is responding in real time, and you have to adapt a little bit,
Yeah.
but you have to build a story architecture that's strong. So I'd say my usual, the pillars that I take that run, I'm going to talk about narrative a lot because I'm a writer at heart,
Yeah.
and that's my part on these projects. I try to take strong stories that, there are certain well understood engines, right? Fairy tale structure works. Two couples, if it was good enough for Pride and Prejudice and Middlemarch, it's probably good enough for what you're doing.
Right.
If someone comes and says, let's do Romeo and Juliet, but said something, that's going to work because it always works. So I try to take relatively established and structurally sound narratives. Then I try to think about how is the audience going to interact with them in a way that is fulfilling for them. So to speak, on one hand, you have the writing of stories that is exciting to you, that you would build just like any other time you're building a story. And on the other hand, you're building what a gamer would call a game loop. Like, what is the exciting thing for the player to do and repetitively? How do they engage with the story, talk to their community, find an action, rinse, repeat? So putting together the game loop and the story piece so that they sort of mesh pleasantly.
Right.
That seems to carry across multiple different kinds of storytelling. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, and affordances of different media that you're playing in. You look at it from both of those lenses and kind of merge them together.
And when you're using, like I started out in a format that uses a lot of different kinds of media, and just try to know what each thing is good at, and honestly what the price point is. Like, sorry about that. That first project was done. The guy who came up with the idea is a man named Jordan Weissman, who's a game designer who's come up with an infinite number of things. And Jordan has built video games of every kind, but he says when possible, always invoke the infinite resolution renderer. So a line of text that creates a vivid image in someone's mind is super cheap to make and has a fidelity of resolution in their imagination beyond what you can do with a lot of processors. So Jordan is very big on using the infinite resolution renderer when he can.
Oh my God, I love that. Make smart content then, right?
Yeah, make smart content, and when something that is expensive,
maybe
save.
Don't do it.
Do less of it or save it for a certain moment, and make sure it's giving you the bang for buck that you want it to make.
Right. God, this is such a wealth of knowledge. I'm curious in regards to thinking about the next generation and how they work together. Usually when people think about writers, it's a lonely job or you're alone, but it doesn't sound like you work alone.
It's actually the funnest part of my second career is that I spent years and years and years typing in my bedroom, basically being a novelist. One of the things that's super fun about doing this kind of more interactive and immersive work is that it's collaborative. Shakespeare had the benefit of working with team, right? He had a whole bunch of actors with a different, Shakespeare is famous for having his negative capability, his ability to imagine what it was like to be something he wasn't.
Yeah.
But what people forget is he spent all day, every working day with 10 other dudes.
Right.
Building that stuff. In the world that I work in, writer, programmer, art guy, and game designer are two guitars, bass, and drums, right? That's the band.
Right.
And you can make some amazing stuff with that band.
When you have the band together.
It's super, super fun to do.
So I'm constantly putting the students in teams. And I think when they walk out of my classroom, they realize the importance of teams and collaboration.
Yep.
And I think this is a good moment to bring on your daughter, Rowan, because it sounds like y'all are a good team as well. And and then I'd love to kind of just hi, Rowan.
Hi.
How are you? Welcome. So Rowan, just since you're jumping in on the stage with us, tell people who you are and what you're doing.
So my name is Rowan Stewart, and I'm a product manager at BCG Digital Ventures. So what we do is we actually create amazing products for Fortune 500 companies, and I specialize in data science-driven products.
Data science-driven.
Yeah.
Well, data science is definitely part of Immersive. It's the backbone that I think we're shaping a lot of storytelling in lately, and tying into audience and how we measure audiences in new ways. So I'm curious from both of you, and this is kind of the wrap of this, is I'm hoping to, as I build out Texas Immersive at UT Austin, really kind of creating the new skills. What are the skills students need, both hard and soft skills, in order to be prepared to participate in this very wide immersive field? So from both of your perspectives, and you as a dad, you know, what have you seen in Rowan? Because Rowan is closer to my students' age, and I'd love to know, like, talk to your peers, you know?
Of course.
Help me get them ready.
Yeah, I think for me, it was really hard for me when I was young to speak in front of others, especially to speak extemporaneously. And I really worked on doing public speaking, and that's something that I didn't expect to need so much in my career, but it's been really, really important.
Well, I'm in the College of Moody's College of Communication. So
Okay, maybe your students will be more prepared.
I hope these students are prepared to speak in front of the public, but we'll get all of the business students and the engineering students to get ready to speak.
The other thing that was part of that, right, is that you went to a high school where they put you in groups relentlessly, like you never had individual homework.
Solo projects.
No solo projects.
Yeah, you always had to, even in the mathematics and science courses, actually create a presentation, present against a panel, and present with a group. So nothing was individual, which is very much how the workplace actually is.
And do you see that also at Magic Leap, that everyone is working in groups?
Yeah, it's. I mean, the nature of this work is it's pretty collaborative. The other thing I will say on Rowan's behalf is that she is an interesting combination because she has a fairly advanced design sensibility. She messes around in Photoshop. She paints. She does graphic arts, and her specialization in university. She was actually a philosophy student, but did a lot of formal logic. So she's able to both speak to programmers the way programmers understand problems and break them down logically, but she can also talk to designers and artists and business people and translate for all three of those groups. And the ability to be familiar enough to with each of those disciplines to be able to talk across them, I think has been super helpful.
Yeah, in Immersive, right? Like, that's the entire point. You're melding worlds together. So being able to talk to lots of different types of people with different skill sets and different backgrounds is super important. And it's not something that you learn in normal school because you're working so independently.
Right. So one thing I can take away from this is bring lots of different generations and disciplines together to foster the next generation of creatives and business people. So thanks so much, Rowan and Sean, for coming on to our podcast. We're live here at the Infinity Festival.